Okay, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Mr. Jabera Matogoro. I'm working at the University of Dodoma as the assistant lecturer at the College of Informatics and Virtual Education. Today, I would like to give a very short presentation on choosing the right statistics, especially for those who are doing data analysis in either undergraduate, master's, and maybe postgraduate, including PhD research. One of the most difficult and potential fear-inducing parts of the research process for most research students is choosing the correct statistics technique to analyze their data. Although most statistics courses teach you how to calculate correlation coefficients or perform a t-test, they typically do not spend much time helping students learn how to choose which appropriate approach to address a particular research question. In most research projects, it is likely that you will use a quite variety of different types of statistics, depending on the question you are addressing and the nature of the data you have. It is very important to know that the type of research or inferential statistics that you are opting to use will much depend on the question you are addressing and the data you have collected. It is therefore important that you have at least basic understanding of different statistics, the type of question they address, and their underlying assumption and requirement. So dig out your statistics and review the basic techniques and principles underlying them. In this training, we will look at various statistic techniques that are available, and I will then take you step by step through the decision-making process. This is an overview of different statistical techniques. This section is broken into two main parts. First, we look at the techniques used to explore the relationship among variables, maybe between age and optimism, or between age and level of education. These are the relationship among the variables. And we also check techniques you can use when you want to explore the differences between groups. Maybe the one with books, with those without books, or the one with internet access and the other group without internet access. Or you can even have two schools or two groups with different conditions. So there are different techniques that you can use when you want to explore the differences between the groups or the differences between variables. So it's very important to understand this before you start doing data analysis of your research. Some of the techniques you can use to explore relationship. We have the Pearson correlation, we have the partial correlation, we have multiple regression, we have factor analysis. We also have a discriminant function analysis, and also canonical correlation and structural equation modeling. These are different techniques that one may opt to use. When you are exploring differences between groups, there is another family of statistics that can be used when you want to find out whether there is a statistical significant differences among the number of groups. This type of statistics is either t-test, one-way analysis of variance, two-way analysis of variance, multivariate analysis of variance. So you should also be aware that there are two types of t-test, independent t-test and dependent t-test. We'll be covering on the next slides. Summary. Although all of these analyses described above involve exploration of the relationship between continuous variable. It is also important to know that, because I mentioned earlier that it is important to know the types of data that you have collected. So the above statistical approaches or methods, they explore the relationship between continuous variable. So as I have mentioned, you should also dig out in your statistic book to know what do we mean when you say a variable is continuous. And if you have only categorical variables, you can use the chi-square test for relatedness or independence to explore their relationship. For example, if we wanted to see whether gender influenced client dropout rate from a treatment group, then the chi-square techniques is the best approach to use. In this situation, you are interested in the number of people in each category, either males and female, or who dropped out from the program, rather than their scores on scale. So most of these analyses involve comparing the mean scores for each group on one or more dependent variable. So there are a number of different but related statistics in this group. So maybe I should have a quick review of t-tests. T-tests are used when you have two groups, for example, males and female, or two sets of data before and after, and you wish to compare the mean scores on some continuous variables. So for example, if you have two groups or two conditions, then the t-test is the best approach for that type of research you are conducting. You should also know that there are two main types of t-tests, as I have mentioned. We have paired sample t-test, which is called repeated measure, which are used when you are interested in changes in scores for subject tested at time 1 and then against at time 2, often after some intervention of events. And the samples are related because they are the same people tested each time. And we also have independent sample t-test, which are used when you have two different groups of people, maybe males and female, and you are interested in comparing their scores. So for example, if you have two schools and you have made an intervention in one school, then the t-test, the independent sample t-test, is the best approach for that. But for example, if you have one group and you are interested in exploring the significant differences among the same group, then the paired t-test is the best approach for that. So in this case, you collect information on only one occasion, but from two different sets of people. It's very important to know that. So there is also another statistical approach called one-way analysis of variance. This is kind of extending like the t-test, because we said for the t-test, you must have two conditions or two groups. But for the one-way analysis of variance for the ANOVA, you have to have more than two groups or more than two conditions. In that situation, then t-test is no longer a viable or a feasible solution, but rather you have to use the one-way analysis of variance when you have two or more groups and you wish to compare their mean scores on continuous variable. Yeah, it is called one-way because you are looking at the impact of only one independent variables on your dependent variable. So this is, I thought it's better I give this a short description, but on the next series, I will also be going and demonstrating how to use statistical technique like SPSS. Maybe you can also use there are variables, for example, R, the system R. So these kind of approaches that one can use. So I will demonstrate using the SPSS, but I will also be demonstrating using different data analysis softwares, because I know, for example, if we are doing a public health research, then the AppInfo is the best statistical technique to use, the tool that you can use. So it's also very important to know that what kind of research you're conducting. Then in that type of research you're conducting, then you can also decide on which statistical tools to use. Either, for example, if you are conducting a social science-based research, then SPSS could be the best option. But if we are conducting the public health research, then AppInfo would be the best option. There are also other approaches. For example, for those who are doing research on natural sciences, there are other tools that one can use. So I thought it's better to give this a short presentation to guide, especially for the masters and PhD students who are nearby conducting or undertaking data analysis for their research of the data they have collected. And one-way analysis of variance, as we have mentioned, will let you know whether your group differ, but it won't tell you where the significant difference is. So you can also conduct a kind of post-hoc comparison to find out which groups are significantly different from one another. You could also choose to test differences between specific groups rather than comparing all groups by using the planned comparison. So similar to t-test, there are other two types of one-way ANOVA, repeated measure ANOVA. This is for the same people on more than 2 occasions, and between group or independent samples ANOVA, where you compare the mean scores of 2 or more different groups of people. So all these are the techniques that one can use, especially when conducting a data analysis for the research for the data that they've collected. For more information, you can contact me, Jabera Matogoro at udom.ac.tz, or you can also reach me through jaberamatogoro@gmail.com. I prefer that when sending to udom.mail, then you should also copy to the Gmail just as a backup to reach me because sometimes you might find some technique or challenges for the Roku mails, but for the Gmail is also an alternative approach to reach to me. Otherwise, you can also reach my office. I'm located at B13, Save Administration Block. So thank you for listening and wish you all the best as you are now going ahead undertaking your data analysis for your research. Thank you.